Hello, I'm Michael Serapio. Is Canada at a breaking point? Well, that is the question explored in a new book co-written by Darrell Bricker and John Ibbitson. If you follow Canadian politics, chances are you know both names quite well. Darrell Bricker is the Chief Executive Officer of Ipsos Public Affairs, a position he's held for over 20 years, and for more than 30 years, Bricker has been one of this country's best-known pollsters. John Ibbitson, meanwhile, is one of Canada's best-known journalists. Starting his career at the Ottawa Citizen, he went on to work for the National Post and the Globe and Mail, and with that last organization served as Washington Bureau Chief, Ottawa Bureau Chief, Chief Political Writer, and then Writer at Large before retiring. Now, back in 2013, the two co-authored a book titled The Big Shift, the seismic change in Canadian politics, business, and culture, and what it means for our future. A book that explored the demographic changes that were taking Canada away from its consensual past, shifting political power from east to west, and transforming the country into a more polarized place. Well, fast forward to 2025, and the two are back with a new book titled Breaking Point, The New Big Shifts Putting Canada at Risk. And in it, Bricker and Ibbitson explore how political inaction on long-standing problems are now threatening to tear Canada apart. Long before Donald Trump, they argue generational tensions, regional tensions, decisions over important issues like housing and immigration have only served to sow seeds of disunity in this country.
Trump arrived in some ways as a catalyst. Now, obviously, he is a tremendous challenge. He literally wants to annex the country. And it looks as though he's using trade policy to bring us essentially economically to our knees. But there were a lot of things going wrong before he got there.
If we deal with some of the issues that are confronting our country, that our best days are actually ahead of us. But we're not going to get there by going back into bed, pulling the covers over our head, and waking up tomorrow and hoping that the world goes back to the way that it was, because it's not going to. So now's the time. Just as our forefathers and foremothers back in the 1860s got together and created this great country from east to west, and met the challenges of being able to maintain in Canada, as George Grant described as a unique species on the North American continent, felt that we were better together than joining the United States. That torch has now been passed to us. It's dimmed, but we can get that flame going again. But it's not going to be easy. It's going to be very hard work, and that's what John and I wrote about in the book.
So, what can be done? Take a listen now to what Darrell and John said to me as we discussed their new book in profile. Darrell Bricker, John Ibbitson, congratulations on the new book.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
So it's called Breaking Point, which makes me wonder, Darrell, do you see this book as a warning or a blueprint?
I think it's both, actually. It's the warning that sets up the blueprint. So it's actually quite an optimistic book, although the title may not suggest that. But what we're saying is that the country has been in these kinds of situations before, and we're in one of those situations again. But we can't underestimate the level of threat that this country finds itself in, not just because of what's happening in the United States, but as a result of some of the things that are happening here in this country, cans that we've kicked down the road for a long period of time, that there is a reckoning point. But our view at the end of it is there is a series of things that can be done to improve the situation for Canada and make it a better country going into the rest of the 21st century.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so cans that we've kicked down the road, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the breaking points, and I say some because this is quite a comprehensive book. We're not going to have the whole time to go through it, but I'm going to, John, begin here with one of the issues that you bring up, and this is with young Canadians, because you say young people. Again, one of the breaking points, young people are losing faith in this country. What do you mean by that?
So we talk about two big crises, one horizontal and one vertical. And the horizontal one, of course, is regional alienation. We have Quebec about to have a PQ government, referendum on sovereignty, perhaps a referendum on sovereignty in Alberta. So there are big divisions within the regions of the country. We've had that before, maybe not quite as severe as we have it now, but we've had it before. What's new, what's different, is that we have two generations of young people, millennials and Gen Zs, who have every reason to believe that they will not have as good a life as their parents have. They don't have the income security. They don't have reasonable prospects of owning a home. They don't even know what a defined benefit pension plan is. And they are angry, and they have every good reason to be angry at the boomers like us and the Gen Xers who have sort of won all the lotteries in terms of home ownership, home equity, in terms of income security, in terms of pensions, and who are now expecting this younger generation to take care of them as they get into their retirement years. And it is causing an enormous degree of resentment and a great shift in political attachment. But more important than whether the young people are voting conservative rather than liberal, and they are they feeling a sense of detachment from the country itself? And there's every reason to fear that in fact is what they're doing.
Okay, and to that, and Darrell, I'll get you in here, because what struck me, one of the numbers that struck me in your book is the fact that despite the fact that Donald Trump has reignited the sense of nationalism in this country, you say that 40% of Canadians under the age of 35 would be willing to become American citizens. Does that mean they're open to annexation?
Well, that's the thing. If the Canadian promise isn't paying off for you, for a large number of people who are in those younger categories that John was describing, maybe there's an alternative. And also keep in mind that a lot of those younger people are not necessarily born in this country. So their attachment to Canada through centuries and decades of heritage and history is not that strong. So Canadian promise isn't necessarily paying off for them. Potentially, maybe the American promise can pay off. So this puts us in a situation where we're not just talking about the traditional issues that we deal with, which is the differences between the various regions of the country, but we're also talking about big differences in terms of generations, but also in terms of gender, and also in terms of income groups and class. So there's a group of people who this country works very well for, and then there's another whole group of people that they're just asking, if this is the best there is, maybe we can consider something else.
Okay, I'm going to try to break that up a little bit,
Sure.
because as you say, this is a multidimensional issue that we're talking about. But when we zero in specifically with young people not being part of I guess, the largesse of this country, what has led us to this point?
There's a bunch of things that happened, but one of them is the tremendous failure of the immigration policies of the last government. So Justin Trudeau had all the best intentions. We were going to grow Canada. We were going to double the already high level of immigration from 250,000 a year to 500,000 a year. And you can debate whether that was right or a good idea or a bad idea. What was definitely not a good idea was to open the floodgates to temporary foreign workers, to open the floodgates to international students, and to take in a huge increase of asylum seekers crossing the border at the same time. And suddenly, there are 3 million people in this country who we didn't really know were going to be here. And that has led to a spike in housing costs, shortages for housing, shortages in healthcare, and a real competition for work, especially among lower income people. So you have young people graduating from university or from college or just going out into the workforce and finding that they are in competition with a tremendous number of temporary foreign workers and international students who the government didn't even really know were going to be here.
Mm-hmm. And just to add to this, these are the immigration part is fairly unique to Canada, although there are other places in which is a similar kind of dynamic. But this is a dynamic between generations that we're seeing all over the Western world. With similar types of difficulties, access to housing, access to good, stable jobs, hope about the future, a sense that they're going to make the type of social progress that has kind of been promised by the Western capitalist system, which is that this generation will do better than the next generation, or do better than the previous generation. And these days, you're finding, not just in Canada, but in continental Europe and the United Kingdom and the United States, that young people, particularly young men, are feeling left out of this.
And that's absolutely true, of course. But also within that context, Canada is almost uniquely disfavored. Our productivity growth is dreadful.
It has been a challenge for a very long time. Productivity in this country.
But it's getting worse, and our per capita income is getting worse. So all the measures within the OECD, Canada tends to be around the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Can I pick up on a point though, because you mentioned young men, and I think that's worthwhile to dig into a little bit, because in the book you write that young men in particular, you say they are experiencing a crisis of masculinity. What do you mean by that? Why should that be concerning?
Well, for the longest time, the real focus that we've had in our society has been on equalizing the situation between men and women, and particularly younger women, coming through educational system and getting into the job market and that kind of thing. But if you actually look at the statistics of how young men and young women are performing these days, and you can take that up from the youngest groups to, the millennial groups, women are doing a lot better than men. They're doing better in terms of their ability to graduate from secondary school. They're doing better in terms of their ability to graduate from university in just about every single profession that you want to take a look at. And in fact, if you look at their how they're starting out in the workplace and their income levels, they're better than young men are doing. If you look at workforce participation between men and women in Canada today, women are still going up and men are actually going down. So young men are in a situation in which they're really wondering about their relevance, and if anybody is feeling like they need to have a big change, and the direction of the country isn't going to be one that advantages them, the current direction of the country isn't going to advantage them, for all the reasons that John mentioned before, it's young men. Okay,
but what's the redress though? Because we've seen a little bit of this in the United States, right? And what we have seen as a pushback against that is the taking away women's right to choose through the Supreme Court. We've seen DEI being scaled back in the United States. We're seeing a pushback of even feminist speech in the United States. Is that what you're talking about as a way to redress it here?
No, absolutely not. And let's be very clear here. We have spent most of our adult lives as part of the campaign to improve the quality of life for women, to improve equality within the workforce for women, to improve equal pay for women, to improve the chances that women could reach the top levels of corporations. All of these things are still not fully equal, but much, much better than they were, say, 20, 30 years ago. So this is really great news. The bad news is that the sort of the semi-skilled blue-collar workers on the line in manufacturing, this is where jobs are disappearing. And those jobs traditionally were held by men, not men with university degrees, but sort of unskilled or semi-skilled workers. Those jobs are disappearing again around the world, but they're especially disappearing here, and they're especially disappearing as Donald Trump says he wants to take essentially the entire manufacturing sector of Canada and move it to the United States. So what you have are young men, not necessarily knowledge workers, whose fathers perhaps would have worked on the line, but there's no longer a line for them. And they find themselves operating in an economy in which they have no income security at all, and they are increasingly resentful towards it. I don't think there's any chance here that we're going to start clawing women's rights back. But we do have the problem of what to do with young men.
Okay, let's shift now then, because essentially what we have spent time now is delving into some of the breaking points that is challenging the society. As you say, not just a doom and gloom book, but a book of hope. So let's begin with young men. What do you see as a way of redressing some of this? I don't know who wants to speak about that first.
I think the first thing is just recognizing that it's actually happening. I mean, all of the things that John was talking about are actually happening. They're real things in young men's lives. And we saw in the last election campaign that they were the ones who tended to disproportionately vote for the Conservative Party. So I think that just kind of ignoring, and by the way, voting for the Conservative Party isn't wrong, it's just a vote for change. It was a vote for change in the election. So challenging the status quo, people who really didn't like the direction of the country. But I think the first stage of this is just really recognizing what's actually going on with younger men and acknowledging that there are problems. I mean, looking at the suicide rates, for example, among younger men, these are tragic statistics. And if we change the gender of the people that are involved here, we'd be quite outraged by the situation that we saw that they are encountering. So the real point is, okay, so are we going to deal with some of this? So there's some issues that you can deal with in terms of the education system. There's probably some things that we can do with in terms of skills training for people who are going to be moving into the new economy and maybe moving off the line, as was being said before. But I think that the first part of this is acknowledging that it's a problem, and I don't really see that it's being acknowledged.
Mm-hmm. But the second part is, as Darrell suggested, reducing the cost of education, not necessarily a BA in the humanities, although there's nothing wrong with the BA in the humanities. I think we both happen to have them.
But they're great.
But also increasing co-op work, apprenticeship work, skills training, really practical hands-on ways of equipping younger people to work in the workforce, to reduce the cost of education, to provide financial incentives, and then generally to slash regulations and taxes to make it easier for people to afford a house, to reduce the cost of housing. We advocate, perhaps the most controversial thing in the book is, and this is not just for young men, but for everyone in the younger generation, let's keep sprawling. Let's stop worrying about densification in the downtowns.
Let's talk about that, because you do write that building the housing young people actually want to buy is part of the solution. What do you mean by that? Because we to the last point you were making, what we've heard from public policy decision makers right now is, what we need are higher density, smaller walks, not driving commutes. But you say that's not actually who we are.
Well, it's not what we build. So yes, first of all, and as COVID taught us, in case there was any doubt, most people grew up in a multi-bedroom house with a backyard. Guess what? They want to live in a multi-bedroom house with a backyard. They don't want to live in densified downtown urban environments. Some people do. But the idea that we can accommodate all the demand that we have for low-cost housing through densification, it's not going to work. For one thing, there's just so much opposition to it within the neighborhoods where the densification is supposed to take place. So most of us grew up in suburban houses on the edges of cities. And the best way to reduce the price of housing is, first of all, to reduce the charges on the housing, but then second of all, to keep sprawling. If you're going to build a bunch of multi-bedroom houses with backyards, you have to build them in the farmland on the edges of the cities. And this sort of Laurentian politically correct opinion that sprawl is evil and has to be contained and the environmental benefits costs are too high. Well, the social costs of depriving young people of housing are even higher, and we have to address that.
Mm-hmm. Now, another breaking point, we only touched upon it briefly because you mentioned the regional alienation in this country, and not just Quebec, but increasingly so from the West. And in the book, there is a line that reads, "We need to double down on the country we actually are, suburban, as you say, but also increasingly Western resource rich. That's not a weakness, that is our competitive edge." How does that address a breaking point in your mind, Darrell? How is embracing this increasingly Western resource-based economy something that would address the breaking point and essentially keep the country from being broken apart?
Yeah, well, the Laurentian consensus, the Laurentian elite view of the Canadian economy is one.
And by that you mean Central Canadian?
Yeah,
yes.
well, we came up with it. So I mean, John actually came up with it. I mean, so
Central
might as well use
Canadian
it.
political and business elites.
Okay.
Yeah, so they basically there's Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, and then every place is flyover after that. And the truth is, in the Canadian population these days, there are more people who live west of the Ontario Manitoba border than live east of the Ontario-Quebec border. So actually the most rapid growth that we're seeing is east of or west of Quebec. It's the suburbs of the city of Toronto and some of the other places like Ottawa and some of the other London, Ontario and places like that, and then in Western Canada. And so what's happening is the economy is shifting in that direction. And the truth is, when you sit down, I mean, anybody who, say you landed from Mars and you didn't have any political views on what was going on in Canada, and you just simply went on Statistics Canada's reports or anybody else's reports on Canada's trade statistics, you see what it is that the world buys from us. And it's not, cluster of technology clusters and that kind of thing. It's oil and gas, it's lumber, it's agriculture. They're the basis of our economy, and frankly, they're mostly in Western Canada. So our point is that we need to recognize those economic realities, and instead of trying to fight with Western Canada about what should be our economy, we should all be taking advantage of the fact that they're quite successful in this and assist in making them successful. So the world wants what Canada has, but it just doesn't want, I think, what Ottawa bureaucrats think that our country should be.
Okay, that interestingly echoes a bit of what we've heard from Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, when he talks about the world wants what Canada has. How do you put that into practical effect?
Well, first of all, get government out of it, make government helpful, but get them out of it and let markets operate and build the infrastructure so we can actually take advantage of this. And yes, this means pipelines to Tidewater. And this is the responsibility of the federal government to make happen. And ultimately, that's what we're going to have to do if we're going to find trading partners other than the United States. Reality just woke up south of the U.S.-Canadian border, and that reality is not one that's going to favor our trading position with the United States. And if we're going to diversify, we can't do it without the infrastructure to do it.
But also, we have a country in which a large chunk of the country doesn't see itself reflected in the federal government. And that's especially true of Western Canada. They look at Ottawa and they see an Ottawa
and through the history of Western Canada.
And it is from 1905 when the provinces were founded. They look at Ottawa and they see a place that looks at them as a colony, that looks at them as a region. That looks down on them. And if the country is to be rescued, we need to have all regions of the country believe that the federal government is their government. One of the core recommendations in Breaking Point is that a large chunk of the federal government be moved out of Ottawa and moved into Western capitals. That departments that are in shared jurisdictions, culture, environment, agriculture, get them out of Ottawa, get them into regions. We talk about putting the Canada Council in Saskatoon, which we think would be a particularly inspired idea. So that when, and we talk about it in terms of the CBC and the national broadcaster, when you look at the federal government, or when you turn on the CBC and you live in Regina, you should see yourself in that government and in that broadcaster and in every other respect. If we're going to keep this country going, every region of the country must believe that it is a central region of the country. And the Southern Ontario is just that, another region within Canada.
Okay, I'm going to break off from this for the last few minutes of our conversation, because you also talk about creating a military-industrial policy, and obviously there's now pressure and commitments made to meet the 2% and 5% target of NATO spending. But when you talk about that, is that an industrial policy for economic growth? Is that an identity policy for national unity? What are you referring to there?
Well, I think the first stage of it is actually taking the defense of the country seriously. And it's not about the percentage of GDP we're spending. It's really what will it take to defend this country. And then finding the places that we can manufacture the things that we need to get more quickly than anything. So if some of it can be assisted by industrial base here in Canada, yes, but if some of it needs to be bought from other places, yes too. And not just looking at this, and we hear a lot about the North. I mean, people get very obsessed about the North. It is a Canadian obsession. It was certainly the previous Prime Minister, Stephen Harper's obsession. It was where he seemed most at home when he went up into the North. But really, that is going to be a contested territory going forward. And we supposedly have big claims on what that land is going to be and who owns it up there. We can't really defend it right now. But it's also our southern border, too. I mean, if you look at where all the handguns are coming from that are committing crimes in Canada, they're not guns that are being stolen from hobby shootists. I mean, there are probably some people who do that. But they're mostly things that are being smuggled in across our border. So we have a southern security issue and a northern security issue.
And we have a broader policy problem, which is we thought that we could skimp on defense spending while maintaining an aggressive foreign policy and trade policy. But in fact, defense policy is foreign policy, is trade policy. And if you neglect one, then all three suffer. So we need to spend more money on defense for the reasons that Darrell said, but also if we want to play in the big games, if we want to be trading into Europe and trading into the Pacific, then we need a robust foreign policy and we need a robust trade policy, and that means ships and submarines and planes where they need to be. If we want to go back to being a serious player, we have to spend the money that it takes to be a serious player.
Okay, serious player in terms of securing this country. But I'm just going to do a quick summation here, and you tell me if I'm on the right path here. Military investments, resource development, housing, all those create and symbolize economic prosperity and productivity. Is that what you see as really the path of addressing the breaking points that you outline in this book?
Yeah, I think ultimately we have to decide that we're going to be a country that makes sense. So my opening idea in the book when we started into it was, are Canadians a unique people on the North American continent? and a country that can't defend itself and only has really one significant trade partner, when Donald Trump stands up and says, you know, you guys would be better off with us, maybe there's an argument to make for that. You know, when he says that there was a line that's drawn on this map, it looks like it was drawn by a ruler, it's actually true. But the people who drew that line really believed we were better east to west and independent from the United States, and that this country made sense. And the people who put this country together initially had bold visions of building the infrastructure that would keep the country together, but also recognizing in their own particular situation that maybe a glass half full together in between individual regions was better than having a full glass in the United States. So we found a reason to bring this place together. And that's what the challenge is going to be for the major politicians in this country of the big regions, but also the big cities and other places where they have to come up with the initiatives that make us feel better east to west rather than north to south. Because of that north to south battle, when we've got that government in place in the United States, I take Donald Trump very seriously when he says that I want to use the economic power of my country to bring you into our orbit and possibly make you the 51st state of the United States. And if that's the case, we're going to have to work hard to prevent that.
In the end, it's an optimistic book. We point out the fact that we've had these crises before. Confederation was the result of the threat of annexation by the United States. We have fought in great wars and been on the winning side. We have made tremendous infrastructure commitments, from the seaway to the airports. And beyond into satellites. We have made great alliances and great trading agreements. We have met the challenges in the past. The whole point of this book is to say, let's define the challenges that we face right now, confront the solutions that need to be attacked in order to meet those challenges, and remind ourselves, we've always had the stomach to make this country work in the past. Let's do it again.
Okay. You know, as I said, there was not going to be enough time to go through everything in this book, but I'm pretty sure that this conversation is whetting a lot of appetites. Thank you for this. The book goes on to talk about things like Justin Trudeau, the 2025 election, reconciliation, decentralizing Ottawa, you hinted at a bit there, and the challenges before Mark Carney. So a lot in this book. People can read it themselves. It is called Breaking Point, The New Big Shifts Putting Canada at Risk. Darrell Bricker, John Ibbitson, always appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
And that is Profile. I'm Michael Serapio. For everyone here at CPAC, thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time.